how it works, people. You have to have some kind of trigger mechanism. Evidently, somebody like that guy over there in Austria and Germany and want to have you because it incited a war. But what the banking cartels, the Zionist Rothschild banking cartels want to do is promote war, create war. If you look back to the days of Napoleon, that's how they got their wealth, is funding Napoleon's war and take over Europe. What they did is also, after the country has been taken over that Napoleon just went in there and eradicated, they go in there and build that place back up. Give them a central bank, loan them money to build these places up. That in turn gets them in debt to the Rothschild banking cartel. Guess what happened to this country? Yes, indeed. We are the Napoleon. So not only are we in debt to the Rothschild banking cartels because we're borrowing money to go and fight their wars, we are making it easier for them to take over the rest of the world by bombing the shit out of those countries so they can implement a Rothschild banking cartel in those countries as well. That's how it works. Now, if you want to know how they keep this power structure going, it's the energy market. Now, if you control the energy market, you control the world, control the money, control the energy market. Bam! Fuck the rest of the everything else. I mean, you might as well control the water too, but for some reason they haven't been able to pull over that motherfucking show yet. I mean, this is all a racket, okay? You're looking at controlling things like the mafia does in South Boston, okay? What you want to do is control the energy, control the money. Now, if you do those two things, you're going to control everything else because everything else trickles through those two things. So what do? You own all of the banks, all of the structure of it. Everyone that wants to be a part of it and make money, you buy those motherfuckers. Make them pawns. Make them your worker bees. And that's what the Rothschild banking cartel has done. They've done it, you know, with the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers are in control of one particular rocket. They're in control of, you know, the oil markets. You've got other branches that are in control of the news media. You got other branches that are in control of the movies and, you know, Clear Channel Radio. They own the majority of fucking radio stations. So all your radio, all your movies, all your damn everything is more or less controlled or has dirty claws somewhere in the mix. Not to say all of them are. There's a lot of people that make it in Hollywood that get some messages across to us on what's really going on behind closed doors. Maybe it's even people that are bought and paid for, but they feel, you know, in their conscience that they're doing something wrong. So they feel a little bit better if they put it in a movie on what's really going on. That's the game, folks. You're being played. It's rigged. Now let's get back on the energy markets a little bit, because there's a guy by the name of Nikola Tesla that wanted to give you free energy. You probably never heard of this guy, but guess what? Nikola Tesla is the reason why all of our technology today is around. He's the one that invented essentially wireless cell phones, wireless radio control objects. He invented those. He invented the radio. He invented electricity that we use today. The whole thing about AC/DC, that was a war between Edison and Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla ended up winning that battle, but ultimately he lost the war because he wanted free energy to go to people. He didn't see any reason why we would have to charge people when you have free energy in the ionosphere. You look at a thunderstorm. Look at how much lightning, how much energy is spent in one lightning bolt. That's enough to power a city for, I can't tell you exactly how long, but a while. Now, if you're able to harness that energy in the ionosphere, you can essentially not only break down the electrical storms that we have, as in not have as many as electrical storms, because what that's doing is discharging electricity. If we're using that electricity, it's not building up to the point where it's able to discharge. So what we're able to do is essentially build towers up into the ionosphere, or that collects energy from the ionosphere, brings it down to our power plants, and shoot it off to our homes and businesses. Nikola Tesla had most of this in play back more than 100 years ago. Look up Wardenclyffe, okay? A guy by the name of J.P. Morgan was funding this for Tesla, found out that, he's gonna kill our whole energy market monopoly that we're gonna have going for us. We better dirty the waters for Nikola Tesla. We better make sure he never gets another job in this town again. And that's more or less what they did. And he died a very broke and very alone old man. But he was a mad genius, y'all. Everything we have today, they stole from him and created the structure that they have in play today. So if you look back all the way to World War I and see how they got us into World War I, see how they implemented the Federal Reserve banking system and got us away from Americanism, which is essentially railroads and trade and free trade, across the country. That was starting to boom and starting to go towards Russia and towards Germany. We were talking about building a railroad all the way through Russia to Germany. And what that would have done would have broken the backs of the monopoly of the trade system that Britain had at the time. Well, Britain was owned and paid for by the Rothschild Zionist Bank for hundreds of years. They're just another pawn, okay? They were essentially the America before America. Now, Britain has gotten to the point where they are just the banking central hub. So they are controlling all of the gold and money. And America's job is to be the military of the world. So if you look at how it's structured, back more than 100 years ago, they weren't only the banking system, but they were also the military. So they were stretched thin. Britain is only so big. That's why this power structure started to change all the way from, the beginning of the 1900s on into the 70s. That's when you start seeing, the British pound change over to the American dollar, and the American dollar broke away from gold, and they ended up being backed by Saudi oil, essentially. Now, the way it works back in the day is any country that had to get oil from, say Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Libya, any of these countries, they had to get them in American dollars. The only way you can buy, you can just go over there with your, your yens and say, hey, I want some oil. Let me have some. No, you had to go and trade your yens in for American dollars. Then you can go and buy some oil, in order to fucking run your country and what have you. So what that did is it tied America into the oil market and made the American dollar worth something. Okay, because the American dollar is only worth something as long as people think that it is. And as long as people are trading it for oil or anything in that matter, I mean, they can be trading it for food, but they don't have the market on foods per se. They went ahead and took the market on energy. I guess it was a lot easier to do so because people can still grow fucking food in their backyard. They're making that illegal here is pretty soon, but as far as I know, in this country, you're still capable of growing your own food in the vast majority of it. Little shithole fucking subdivisions that you have to buy into these homeowners associations, those folks probably aren't allowed to grow food, but everywhere else you can. So what you do is you own the energy markets, you own the money, you essentially enslave countries by the banking system because they can't create their own money. So they're always in debt to the banks because the bank charges interest on loans. That's the whole thing that came about, you know, as far as Jesus promoting Christianity. Christianity wasn't even a thing at that time. But guess what was going on for the first Christians? Jesus was promoting it too. No interest. Interest is against God's rules. Okay? Believe it or not, the Muslims believe that. That's why we are supposedly against the Muslims, because they are not going to allow banks into their country and own them. So it throws this whole wrench in the plans here. If we can't go in there and own their country via the banks, then we can't own their energy systems, their oil reserves. So these countries are a danger to not necessarily us, the Americans, but to the people that own us, the Rothschild banks. That's what's going on here, people. So that's why we're in war. That's why your young men and women are dying over there in countries that we don't belong in. It has nothing to do with us. It's all about promoting a structure that they want to keep in play because they have their fingers on that market. Now, think about what happens in a real free market. You have places like Blockbuster and Tower Records go the fuck out of business because they become irrelevant. You know, you have things like iPods come into the play, and now you just are able to download your music and movies and everything on the internet. There's no need for discs and tapes to even go and rent. So all of that shit gone away. Now, sure, there's still a couple of people that want that, so you've got things like Redbox that are still around, but that's how a free market system actually works in this country, okay? When you have things like big banks being bailed out because they fuck up, guess what? That's not a free market enterprise anymore. That's called fascism. That's what we fought against supposedly during World War II. But what we really did was pushed it into play. What's been going on